5 levels, 20 entries. The most illegal and disturbing video game Iceberg. I created this Iceberg myself, so I tried to gather the worst of the worst. Let's not waste any time. Let's start at the surface. Manhunt, a rather popular and controversial stealth action video game from a third-person perspective, released by Rockstar Games in November 2003. The player must navigate various locations, completing assigned tasks, which usually involve sneaking into places, eliminating targets, or obtaining something necessary for story progression. The game sparked numerous debates due to its excessive violence and was banned in several countries. It was accused of inciting murders and was often blamed for crimes committed by children who played it. However, police investigations disproved any connection between the game and real-life killings. In 2007, a sequel, Manhunt 2, was released. Yume Nikki, a free indie game in the surreal adventure genre, created by a Japanese developer or group of developers under the pseudonym Kikiyama and released in 2004. Although Yume Nikki was developed using RPG Maker, a tool designed for Japanese RPGs, it lacks traditional RPG elements, dialogues, or a complex plot. Instead, the game offers an exploration of the dream worlds of the protagonist, Madotsuki, filled with mesmerizing and unsettling visual imagery that follows the strange logic of dreams. The game has built a dedicated fan community that interprets its meaning and creates their own works based on it. As a result, around 200 fan games have been developed, and in 2013, both a manga and a light novel inspired by the game were released. No Players Online, a short horror game released in 2019, created by 3 Belgian university students as part of the Haunted PS1 Jam in November 2019. Initially intended to be a 20-minute horror experience, the developers expanded it into a full-fledged ARG with encrypted messages and secret codes. On the player's desktop, a videotape labeled Capture the Flag Project appears. Clicking on it opens a menu, allowing the player to choose from empty multiplayer servers. Each server is a first-person shooter with PlayStation 1-style graphics. After capturing the first flag, a record player turns on, and a mysterious dark figure starts appearing across the map, hinting that the player is not alone. Before the final flag can be captured, a developer named John appears in the chat. He reveals that the game is an attempt to resurrect his deceased wife, whose soul is trapped in a state of limbo. He begs the player not to finish the game, as shutting down the servers would erase all his work. Dead Island, an action RPG with survival horror elements, developed by the Polish studio Techland and released in 2011. The story takes place on a tropical island overrun by an outbreak of an unknown virus. Infected people turn into zombies and attack survivors. The game follows 4 protagonists who are immune to the infection, with their main goal being to escape the island. As they witness the desperate attempts of survivors to hold on to their humanity and avoid being bitten, the main characters do everything they can to help those who have not yet turned. As they fight their way through the island, they not only struggle for survival, but also uncover the origin of the virus. Some may find the game repetitive, but in my opinion, it deserves a place in this iceberg for its brutality and gore. Now, let's move on to Level 2. LSD Dream Emulator is a first-person adventure game developed and published by SMKS Entertainment for the PlayStation in 1998. It was created by Japanese artist Osamu Sato, who decided to move away from traditional game formats and use the PlayStation as a medium for modern art. The project's concept is based on a dream diary that an SMKS Entertainment employee kept for over 10 years. Developers describe LSD Dream Emulator as an adventure game, but some publications classify it as a horror game due to its psychedelic atmosphere. The best description for this game is a dream you can play. The game consists of levels lasting up to 10 minutes. The player begins each dream in a random area and can freely explore the environment. Upon colliding with objects or passing through specific tunnels, the character is transported to a different location. It Steals is a 2020 horror game created by Z Sears. The player navigates a grid-like maze while avoiding monsters, each with unique mechanics across 5 different game modes. Each mode offers distinct rules and interactions with the creatures, but the core mechanics remain the same, moving through the maze and collecting blue orbs. Classic mode. Collect 14 orbs while being hunted by a creature named Lex. You have a flashlight to ward him off, but excessive use will enrage him, triggering an aggressive chase. Shutter mode. Similar to classic mode, but with only 9 orbs. Instead of a flashlight, you must use a camera with a limited charge to hold Lex back. Hide and seek mode. A black and white monster hides within the maze. If you get too close, it starts actively hunting you, forcing you to hide. Living Halls mode. Monsters blend into the maze walls and attack when approached. When the timer reaches 0, All nearby creatures attack simultaneously. To survive, the player must hide in one of 3 vaults before the timer resets. Phantom mode. The ghost is invisible, but so is the player. However, making too much noise while moving can reveal the player's location. Phantasmagoria is an adventure game created by renowned designer Roberta Williams and released by Sierra Online in 1995. It is famous for its ambitious scale and detailed world. For the first time in a Sierra game, visuals were presented using full-motion video sequences, overlaid on graphics. The creators drew inspiration from classic horror literature, including the works of Edgar Allan Poe and Stephen King, crafting an eerie and suspenseful atmosphere. The game is intended for mature audiences due to its violent, brutal, and explicit scenes. Phantasmagoria was banned in Australia, and some US retailers refused to sell it. The story follows Adrienne Delaney, a writer who moves into an old mansion with her husband Donald, a photographer. The mansion once belonged to an eccentric magician. While exploring the house, Adrienne discovers a mysterious box in a locked room and accidentally releases something sinister. From that moment on, her husband's behavior becomes increasingly irritable, aggressive, and violent. Many compare the game's plot to Stephen King's novel, The Shining. Courage the Video Game is a fan-made adventure game based on the animated series Courage the Cowardly Dog. It was released on August 18, 2021 by developers Nether Nathan and Chica Games. In the game's lore, Nathan discovers files from what appears to be a canceled PlayStation project. Based on the cartoon, he buys an old hard drive at a garage sale, and with the help of Chica Games, creates a working port of the game using Unreal Engine 4. The story starts simply. The spirit of the Harvest Moon tasks Courage with collecting 3 paw badges. However, as the game progresses, things become increasingly dark and terrifying. The second level is coming to an end, and we're diving even deeper. Taiwan 2001. This game, created by Curaçao in Taiwan, is a parody of the infamous Hong Kong 97, which we will discuss in the final level of this iceberg. The gameplay of Taiwan 2001 is similar to Hong Kong 97, although the developers claim that it is worse than the original game. The action takes place in 2001 in Taiwan, when mainland Chinese citizens invade, bringing crime and chaos. Wang Xiumin is sent by the Taiwanese government with the goal to reform the mainland residents, and his partner appears to have been kidnapped. Both characters seem to be reworked photocopies of tan-skinned students. The game was available in Chinese, with an option to choose between the officially standardized version and the Taiwanese Southeastern dialect. The gameplay fully parodies Hong Kong 97. You control a character named Shou Min, throw projectiles at enemies, and dodge motorcycles. Red numbers appear on the screen to display the current score. The game over screen shows the message Min is dead over a digitized photograph of a mannequin for artificial respiration. This is a reference to the game over screen in Hong Kong 97, where a photo of a corpse was used. Unlike Hong Kong 97, which was distributed and sold as an unofficial physical game for Super Famicom, Taiwan 2001 was available for digital download on PC and was free. However, the problem is that no copies of the game were left on computers, and it was considered lost. The only evidence of the game's existence are mentions and reviews from the designer of Hong Kong 97, Kowloon Kurosawa, as well as a screenshot of the title screen and some gameplay footage. However, on November 17, 2023, an Internet Archive user, Andrew Varial, received an email from the developer of Taiwan 2001 containing a disk with the game file. It was later uploaded to the web archive. Lostboy.exe. On August 22, 2012, a thread titled Lostboy.exe was posted on 4chan with a preview of an unknown game. The post author also shared download links for the game. This was the original and saved version, but within a few hours, someone started spreading another link, claiming it was also Lost Boy. In reality, it was a remote access Trojan. As a result, people who downloaded the game inadvertently gave the hacker full remote access to their computers. When the game was launched, it didn't appear, and the malware stole personal data. The hacker collected all the data and posted it on Pastebin, then leaked it in the same 4chan threads. The gameplay of Lostboy.exe is less interesting than its story. It's a walking simulator through a maze with no exit, featuring images of biblical paintings, demons, and stock babies. The game has no NPCs, interactions, or jumping. A more detailed video about this game can be found on my channel. Forbidden Siren. This is a survival horror and stealth video game developed by Japan's studio. It was released only on PS2 in 2003. The game's plot unfolds in the Japanese village of Hanuta, located on the banks of a river. Something strange happens in the village, and the player must uncover what it is. Each character controlled by the player suffers from memory lapses, headaches, and hallucinations. Instead of traditional facial animation, the game used a technique of overlaying real human faces from 8 different angles onto polygonal character models. This creepy effect resembles projecting film onto a mannequin's empty face. The game turned out to be of high quality, but unfortunately, it didn't become popular. Utaho no Tatari. This is a horror adventure released in 2012. The main character, Utaho Yamana, starts noticing that something strange is happening in the house. First, her grandmother disappears, and then she discovers that her whole family's dead except for her and her younger sister Rina, who hasn't returned home yet. Now, Utaho must investigate the cause of these events while being pursued by a monster, and her missing sister appears only to disappear again. The gameplay consists of searching for items and solving puzzles. At certain points, the player must quickly escape from monsters, or a bad ending will occur. The game's creator encourages players to carefully read the in-game materials to understand the hidden story. Level 4. Darkness. Demonophobia is a 2-dimensional survival horror game created and uploaded by an anonymous developer on one of Japan's file-sharing platforms in 2008. Within a month, it was downloaded over 10,000 times and later gained a cult status. The game's defining feature is its extreme brutality. In addition to the fact that the entire gameplay revolves around blood and violence, special attention is given to scenes of the protagonist's murder and torture. In the story, a girl named Sakuri performs a ritual and ends up in a terrifying labyrinth filled with deadly traps and horrific monsters. Later, she meets a mysterious creature called Ritz. Who it is and what it wants remains unknown. However, it says that in order for Sakuri to return home, she must defeat 7 demons and reach a room located in the deepest part of the labyrinth. The game itself appears as a grotesque, bloody, pornographic spectacle, with graphics resembling something drawn in paint. This makes it nearly unplayable. Lolita Syndrome is a Japanese adult computer game created by Katsumi Matsuzuki and distributed by Enix. It won the 2nd Enix Game Hobby Program contest, held every 2 years. The game was released in 1983. The plot unfolds in a mansion called Lolita's House, where underage cartoon girls run around naked and participate in death-defying games. The player must solve puzzles to save them from violent deaths. The mansion has 5 doors leading to different rooms, each containing its own mini-game. Surprisingly, Lolita Syndrome gained cult status among Japanese otaku and game collectors. It was released during the lolicon boom in the anime and manga industry, which influenced its stylistic choices. In 1985, Matsuzuki developed a sequel called My Lolita, which contained less shocking content. However, it was far less successful than the original. Ugetsu Kitan is a horror game released in 1996 by Tonkin House and Will for the PlayStation. It is a collection of loosely connected mystical stories based on the ancient Japanese book Tales of Moonlight, Ugetsu Monogatari. The story begins with the player controlling a man who wakes up in a hospital. In despair, he climbs to the roof and jumps off, only to find himself back on the same roof. Turning around, he sees the ghost of a girl and reaches out to her, but instead, he ends up in a terrifying labyrinth from which he must escape. The game includes 3 scenarios and was popularized by YouTube blogger Rerez after releasing the video Worst SNES Classic Ever in 2018. A Reddit comment perfectly describes the strange atmosphere of the game. There's something like a ball with some images, then a mirror with a girl who has completely white eyes, but it's cracked. Then you end up in a hospital, run to a door, jump off a balcony, but survive. In the next episode, you're in some hellish landscape, then you end up in an endless bamboo forest, where a girl with a cursed snake-like neck is sitting on a toilet. When she stops bending, you see her horrifying face. My father and I watched this together and we both died of fear. Then a hairy cyclops appears, speaking with a creepy voice. I think that's the end of the story, probably. Squirrel Stapler is a hunting horror game by David Shimasaki that mocks low-budget entertainment games. By the way, he is also the creator of Iron Lung and Dusk. The main character is a lonely man living in a remote cabin. One day he wakes up to find the dismembered corpse of his beloved nailed to the wall. Due to the flies and decomposition, her body has become grotesque, but he wants to restore her beauty. With the help of forest squirrels, the protagonist sets out to hunt squirrels and attach them to his deceased lover's body, hoping it will make her beautiful again. The gameplay pays homage to old hunting genre games, and the game itself, like all of Shimasaki's works, can be considered postmodern art mocking the meaninglessness of existence. Well, on that cultural note, I invite you to descend with me to the final level of this iceberg, its abyss. Heart of Cephilimum is an adventure game for Japanese computers, like the PC-98, released in 1991. It is often included in various top lists and icebergs as one of the scariest, strangest, and most unsettling surreal games. However, there is absolutely no information online about what the game is about, not even on Japanese websites. There are no videos, articles, or reviews. The only thing that can be found is screenshots. Very eerie screenshots. The game itself is a sequel to the video game Horror of Cridwell, for which there is slightly more information. Horror of Cridwell is an obscure Japanese horror game. A YouTube user who uploaded a video about it found the game through a Reddit thread discussing its sequel, Heart of Sophilimo. Both games were discovered, but they are quite difficult to find online. He managed to locate it through a web archive of the now-defunct website of the studio that created it. According to the website's description, the plot is as follows. One day, private detective Kenneth McCoy, who had just finished investigating a fraud case, received a call offering him a new job. His task was to find the owner of a piece of land and create a floor plan for the building on that land at the request of a real estate agent. Kenneth accepted the job because it paid well, but he had no idea that this assignment would lead to an unimaginably horrific incident. In short, they discover a monster that ultimately kills them all. As a result, this iceberg level is occupied by two games at once. Hong Kong 97 is an unlicensed shoot-'em-up video game released in 1995 for the Super Famicom, developed by Happy Soft Lindy. Simply put, Hong Kong 97 is an anti-Chinese propaganda game, designed to be the biggest middle finger ever shown to the Japanese gaming industry. The game is based on the 1997 transfer of Hong Kong's sovereignty. As people from mainland China began immigrating to Hong Kong, crime rates skyrocketed. As a countermeasure, Bruce Lee's relative, a drug addict named Chin, actually Jackie Chan's character from Wheels on Meals, was hired by the Hong Kong government to wipe out the entire Chinese population at that time. Meanwhile, in China, research was being conducted to resurrect the dead Deng Xiaoping as the ultimate weapon. The game stands out for its intentionally awful gameplay, a basic shooting mechanic where the same level and boss battle repeat endlessly. The fact that another Happy Soft game is a more detailed city simulator proves that the poor gameplay in this game was deliberate. The game is designed to be as terrible and offensive as possible, addressing highly sensitive topics in an entirely inappropriate manner. Among other things, the game is notorious for its blatant xenophobia, numerous and repeated copyright and trademark infringements, and especially for using real photographs of dead bodies, including victims of the Holocaust and the Bosnian genocide. Kurosawa, the game's creator, intended for Hong Kong 97 to be the most vulgar and disgusting video game ever released, and he was determined to see it through. Splatter School is a beat-em-up game developed by Monimo, released in 2012. It serves as a parody of the famous Splatterhouse and Demonophobia series. Besides featuring extreme violence, the game contains many hentai elements, from rape and tentacles to stripping the heroine as she loses health. The plot follows a Japanese schoolgirl named Jessica. One day after arriving at school, she suddenly finds herself in an otherworldly nightmare. Blood is everywhere. Grotesque living chunks of flesh roam about, and monsters, tentacles, and all sorts of horrors lurk in every corner. Unlike most innocent female protagonists, Jessica quickly gathers her courage and decides to fight her way through this nightmare using only a box cutter. As mentioned earlier, the game adopts the interface and relative controls of Splatterhouse, but surpasses it in brutality and hentai elements. Jessica has only 6 health points, meaning she could easily die from the overwhelming number of monsters, if not for one thing. Most monsters also have low health and die in 1 or 2 hits. Because of this, the game is quite easy, making it difficult to actually die. And since there are only 5 levels, the game is completed rather quickly, which is a plus. That's all from me. I'd really appreciate it if you liked this video and subscribe to the channel. If I see a lot of activity on this video, I'll understand that you enjoy Iceberg content and that I should make them more often. This was Spookify, and see you in the next videos.